It's here, now it's time to open it. Hey there! Today I'll be upgrading my Steam Deck's internal storage from the 64GB it came with to 1TB, and you can too. But first, I'd like to talk about why it's so great that you can do this. The Steam Deck is the antithesis of many of the worst trends in consumer electronics, and I hope it's part of the beginning of a revolution. If you look across the landscape of devices, laptops, all-in-ones, desktops, smartphones, and game consoles, every one of these devices has been moving in the direction of more tightly integrated components. Device makers have been using this trend to justify many poor choices, many anti-consumer choices. The design of our devices makes them harder to maintain, leading to more frequent replacements and more e-waste that hurts the environment. If our devices were made more open so that consumers could easily repair or even upgrade the hardware and software of their gadgets, they would last longer. This is even possible while maintaining these small and sleek devices that we like so much. This level of customer freedom has been standard on desktop PCs since the beginning, and if you're watching this video and you have built your own PC or upgraded its components at some point, you should drop a comment below and tell us about it. Other devices need to adopt this design philosophy, and many projects are working in that direction. Framework and Pine64 are making laptops and smartphones that offer both hardware and software freedom to repair and upgrade over time. The Steam Deck is doing the same thing for consoles. On the hardware side, Valve has partnered with iFixit to sell replacement parts and designed many components so that they are easy to replace, often with very simple tools that many people already have. This is a game console made with the PC gamer's philosophy, and it comes with all the freedom that PC gamers are accustomed to. The Steam Deck ships with SteamOS, an operating system based on Manjaro Linux, giving the user full access to the file system and the freedom to install whatever software they would like, including many console emulators and non-Steam games. Even though most PC games are not made for Linux, Valve has been working hard to make sure that many of the games in Steam's catalog will work with the Steam Deck. This is being done using a compatibility layer called Proton, which is based on Wine, something that Linux users are probably already familiar with. Valve and AMD have also published drivers so that, if you wanted, you could install Windows on the Steam Deck. Unlike many other console makers, Valve has not tried to control what you do with this device. This needs to become the standard. We should expect this degree of customer freedom from every device. Okay, with all that said, let's get to work on the 1TB Steam Deck. I have here on my desk the Steam Deck and the new SSD. First, we need to remove these screws on the back of the device. Valve was kind enough to use a standard Phillips screw here, so you don't need a very special screwdriver for this. There are a total of 8 screws in the back. Next, we remove the back panel. I will be using these guitar picks from my iFixit kit. It took some persuasion, and at times I was worried I might break it, but eventually the back panel did come off. One nice design feature, none of the internal components are attached to the back panel, so there is no risk of anything breaking off as I remove the panel. Next, we want to remove this shield, which protects much of the internal circuitry from interference. It looks like my deck was missing a couple screws, and I found that this one on the top was already somewhat stripped. I found that the shield came off easily enough with that screw still in, so I moved on to disconnecting the battery. Unplugging the battery is important because it could break the device or the new drive if I were to do the swap while it was still plugged in. Once it is unplugged, I would recommend pressing the power button a couple times to verify that everything is discharged. Now we can remove the original SSD. There is a single screw holding it in, then it just slides right out. If you choose to do this upgrade, pay attention to the keying, length, and chip location when you choose an SSD. M.2 SSDs have these little keys cut into them. The Steam Deck requires an M key, so look for an SSD with a cutout like this one. M.2 SSDs also come in many different lengths, and the Steam Deck takes a size 2230, which is shorter than the more common 2280. If you look on Amazon or Newegg, you will see lots of 2280 drives, so look carefully. Some M.2 SSDs have these components on both sides, but the Steam Deck can only fit ones that have components on the top side. Finally, you should look for NVMe SSDs, not SATA, even though both can use the M.2 connector. Okay, now that I've swapped the drive, we need to do everything again in reverse. First, let's plug in that battery. Then we put these screws back into the shield. Finally, we can put the back panel on and screw it into place. Now we can install the operating system, and for that we will need a flash drive. The Steam Deck uses a USB Type-C plug for charging and data connections. If you have an Android smartphone, you're probably already familiar with this plug. You can use a Type-C flash drive if you have one, or you can just use an adapter to connect a more common Type-A flash drive. Valve has a download for SteamOS 3.0 on their website, though I ended up grabbing an older version. See, when I first tried to flash the latest release of SteamOS, my device got stuck in an update loop, failing and then re-attempting to update every few minutes. I later turned to the Steam Deck Discord, where I was advised to try an older version, and they gave me a link so I could download the very first build that Valve offered. Ultimately, this build is what worked for me. I would say that you should try to use the latest build first, and if it fails, you can fall back on the older versions like I did. Once SteamOS was installed, I could log on to my Steam account and start downloading my games. Within 24 hours, I had filled nearly a quarter of the 1TB drive and installed emulators for several consoles. If you are interested in emulation on the Steam Deck, check out the EmuDeck software, as it has made the process of setting up my emulators much faster. The Steam ROM Manager is also bundled with it, and it was able to get many of my emulated games added to my Steam library so I can access them like any other game. So, now that I've owned a Steam Deck for a few days, I can say that it is the definitive handheld for PC gaming. It combines the lessons learned from previous handheld consoles with the PC's tradition of flexibility and modding for both hardware and software, making for the best of both worlds with one limitation. The Steam Deck does not have the best battery life. In fact, it's the main thing I've been asked about regarding the Steam Deck. To Valve's credit, the device does charge very quickly, and gives users a lot of options to extend the battery life. Users can make simple adjustments to the frame rate or brightness, and can even bring down the TDP or clock speed to make the most out of each watt. You can even adjust these on a per-game basis, and the device will remember your preferences. Your battery life will mostly depend on what you're doing. Some games will drain it in a couple hours, while others will keep it going for far longer. The big takeaway here is that the Steam Deck is the device that finally lets the user have the final say for their own machine. This machine cannot do everything, but what's important is that Valve isn't trying to keep you inside any walled garden. So if you're wondering if you should get a Steam Deck, the question I'll ask you is how much are you willing to put in? If you want everything to work perfectly, you will hit a wall very fast. But this machine is willing to work with you, so you can do what you want with it. Thanks for watching. I'm David, and I make these game design and technology videos here on YouTube. If that sort of thing interests you, then you should subscribe. While you're at it, I'd appreciate it if you liked this video or left a comment so I can make the next one better. One last thing, if you are watching on Monday or Thursday, you should check my Twitch channel because I might be streaming. I usually stream at 7 PM Central Time on those days. You can find a link to that and my Discord server in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.